What is up, Packer fans? After we were victorious on game day against the Chicago Bears, the 205th meeting, the Packers won 27-10, 17-point win. That is pretty good. I think they were favored by 10 though, so sounds about right, but still really good win nonetheless for this Green Bay team. Offense played well. Obviously, there were some areas they wish they could probably have it back, and Rodgers, the one where he went kind of the wrong way and him and Dylan fumbled, and then the one where the center snapped it too quick and Watson hit Watson in the second half. They only mustered up 3 points. A lot more could have been desired out on the field on the second half there. So obviously room to work on. Progress can be made, but all in all, a good win. Bears only threw the ball 4 times in the second half when they were down. They were down 17 points at one time in the second half. Well, towards obviously the rest of the game, but to only throw it that 4 times, just I don't know if it shows that they weren't confident in Fields or if they really just thought they were going to be able to run the ball. They did get some yards. They ran for 180 yards, but when you're down that many points, you have to score quickly, and obviously they did not. But Packers, we ran the ball better, 203 yards, and just a huge, huge day on the ground for Aaron Jones. He looks like he might be the FedEx ground player of the week. That would be pretty awesome. He just looks so much better than he would cut through the line and be gone. He really looked a lot better than the rest of the guys out on the field, all the Bears guys. And on plays where it looked like, well, he's not going to get any yards, he would squeak through the blockers and be 8-9 yards downfield, and just really a great player. Fun to watch him. I did not expect him to do what he did. I thought the Bears defense would corral him. I thought Roquan would be on him, but Roquan was getting blocked by A.J. Dillon, getting blocked by Alan Lazard. It was really awesome to see. Yash played well enough up front, the offensive line. John Runyan Jr. played good coming off the concussion last week. He was good. He's really solidified himself on that left side at that guard position. We all know Bakhtiari, when he comes back, Yash will be sitting. JRJ will be sitting there still at left guard. Myers played well at center, except for that early snap. They called it a brain fart where he snapped it on 1 instead of 2. It hit Watson. Bummer there. Royce Newman struggled again. Wasn't great. I expect Zach Tom to be put in that right guard spot sooner than later. We will see how long they give Newman. If he really struggles up against like Vita Vea this week against Tampa, I see them putting Zach Tom in. I know Rodgers thinks that he's a little undersized, but I still think he's better fit to be guard in the league for the Packers. And then, Jenkins. Having Jenkins be back was huge for this Packers team. Both sides of the ball. It just brought energy, excitement. Everybody was really pumped that he was back out there. Obviously, he had a few little mistakes, a few plays that he would like back, some struggles, but then you saw some of his dominance on other plays. So really exciting just to have a guy like him back. We all know, he kind of has bopped around his position a little bit. He's played left tackle, left guard, some other right guard, I believe, and center. I think he's played all 5, and now he's kind of been at that right tackle mostly, but he hasn't had that many snaps over there at right tackle, and coming off the injury, it's going to take him a little while to get into form. Give him time. We all saw some of the dominance. We saw some of the mistakes, but I think Elgton Jenkins, by the end of the season, will be in Pro Bowl right tackle form for the Packers. Him being back just really solidifies that right side. We got to figure out that right guard spot because I think center is good. I think left guard, John Runyan Jr., I think it's his spot for the season. And then at left tackle, Yash plays well enough. Like I said, if we can get Bakhtiari back, that would be huge. But all in all, great up front, giving Rodgers time on some play actions. The one to Sammy Watkins when they were backed up in their own goal line, really, or in their own end zone, it was 2nd and 11. They had to hit a play, get out of there, get some points. They did. huge play, way to block it up front. Packers defense, though, they were super stout coming off of the performance against the Vikings. I mean, only 48 passing yards. That's ridiculous after giving up 154 in the first half just to Jefferson alone. But Packers defense only gave up 1 of 7 first downs on third down. That's the fewest since like December of 2015, which is crazy to think about. 1 of 7 on third downs is not going to win a lot of games for the Bears, but that just shows the defense was getting after them up front. Like I've been saying, the defensive line working with the defense or the secondary, secondary covering long enough that the pressure can get there and vice versa. Finally looked like how I thought it would be. Obviously, it's only one game. It was the Bears. It was Justin Fields. It's a really good bounce back game, a really good game for the Packers to show that, the Vikings game was a fluke. We all saw what happened, though. The Vikings got whooped by the Eagles. The Eagles look real tough. They look like a team to beat. Do we play the Eagles? Yeah, we play at Philly, so that'll be that'll be fun on November 27th. So, Eagles look like a tough team to beat. Jalen Hurts is a true football player, and he just wins for real. But that's later in the season. We'll worry about that when we get there. Packers have won the last 13 out of the 15 meetings with the Bears at Lambeau, and they have won 10 consecutive home openers at Lambeau, which is pretty amazing if you think about it, with all the moving parts and obviously with all the early season woes the Packers have had week 1. It seems like at home at least they are able to win, come out on top. Pretty awesome if you think about it. 10 straight, and obviously being able to beat the Bears is always something that I really hold deep, because it's just such a big rivalry around, where I grew up in Milwaukee, and where, Chicago fans are there, and people who are friends with people who have friends in Chicago or family in Chicago. So it's always been a really big rivalry between the whole fan bases, and always been exciting. The Packers coming out on top really makes it a lot easier to brag and boast about it all. So that's always fun. But Packers have outscored the Bears 433 to 225 in those meetings, which out in 15 games, that's a lot of points for the Packers offense in 15 games, and not very many points. It's only like 15 points a game for the Chicago Bears, so not going to win you a lot of games, obviously. And Rodgers in this game against the Bears had a big record of hit 450 touchdown passes, which is amazing, because when Dan Marino retired, he had the record, and that was before Favre retired and had broke it. But Marino had 420 touchdown passes, and we all know he was like the gunslinger. Well, Favre was the gunslinger, but Marino was the guy that really had the golden arm for years, since he was drafted in the early 80s. But for these guys to be so far ahead of that and have so many guys past 420 since then, and now Rodgers have hitting 450, he'll be at probably about 480 by the end of the season, if not a few more than that. And he could hit 500 in his career easily if he plays into next year, which would be something that I think he will want to do. He's a guy that knows all these numbers. He knows all these stats, and that's probably a number that he wants to get to. For a guy that was always doubted, always looked over, always, dropping in the draft, all these things, community college, not getting a D1 scholarship, things of that nature. All those things, Rodgers will hit 500 touchdowns if he plays next season, which would be crazy. So, big win. Big win against the Bears. Ran the ball, like I said. Jones had a great day. Dillon had a great day. They're both ranked top 5 in PFF for running backs overall in the NFL. That's huge. That's really a big stat. And another big stat on the defensive side of the ball, our corners, Jair Alexander and Rasul Douglas, are ranked top 5 on PFF for defensive coverage guys. That's pretty big to have 2 guys in the top 5 of that as well. So Packers really have a lot of really talented players, and they're starting to come on here. It's starting to come on. So big test coming up, though. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady. For years didn't have to worry about Brady too much. He was in the AFC, but always kind of would bet against him because I thought finally, okay, this is the time that he has to get beat, and then he'd keep winning and keep winning. And now it's so long later that it's hard to bet against Brady ever. You just kind of say, okay, Brady's probably going to win this, but he is 45 now. It is a different team. This Bucs team is different than it was 2 years ago. They are coming off a 20-10 win over the Saints, but they only ran the ball for 72 yards total. They only passed the ball for 188 yards total. That's not very good, and 61 of that was to Mike Evans, who will not be playing in the game against the Packers at 3:25 on Sunday. Mike Evans is suspended for that game, or for one game for that game, because of the fight he was in with Marshawn Lattimore after the little jaw jacking with Tom Brady. There's videos of it on the Everything Packers channel. Check them out if you haven't seen them yet. But crazy because he is suspended for that. Not the first time they've had a confrontation between him and Marshawn Lattimore. So Mike Evans is out for the game. Tough break for Brady because obviously he doesn't have Gronk. He's not even playing this year. We know that Chris Godwin is out with an injury. We know that Julio Jones didn't play either with a knee that he was like a full go. He had that big play week 1 against Dallas, and then all of a sudden he's on the injury report and he's not playing. So he must have had a flare-up, and who knows how long this could last. He could be back if it's nothing, or he could be out for a while if it's something. I'm not really sure what the status is on Julio Jones, but the reason why I think they signed Cole Beasley to the practice squad is because Julio might be out for a little while. They know that Chris Godwin's out for a little while. Mike Evans is only out for a game. That's no reason for them to sign Cole Beasley, but obviously they want to add another weapon for Tom Brady. I don't think Beasley gets into action this week. He is a smart guy. He might be able to get into a few packages, maybe. I don't know what they do with him. He is going to be on the practice squad, but they might be able to bump him up to the active roster before Sunday and get him in the game. I'm not really sure, but I do know, like I said, that Godwin and Julio are both likely not going to play, and Evans is suspended. So that is big. Obviously, we would always prefer to just beat teams head up, straight up, fair on fair, just to prove that you're better or we're better, so that there's nobody can say, oh, well, our guy was injured or we didn't have anything. But we'll probably still see these guys in the playoffs, but it'll be nice to have it be at Lambeau. Hopefully they can get out of this game with a win. It's kind of like last season where we started off losing against the Saints. This year we started off losing to the Vikings, kind of getting our butts kicked. Bounced back the week later against the divisional opponent. Last year was the Lions, I believe. This year was the Bears. And now we're going to Tampa. Last year we went to San Fran. And we all know we won because we got Rodgers pushed the ball down the field late, got it to Devontae out of bounds, and they were able to kick a field goal to win the game. So, kind of similar. Now we're going to Tampa, tough environment, a team that we have kind of a little rivalry with. Obviously, it's not a rivalry until you beat them. They just beat us all the time, just like the Niners. But still, they're definitely a foe of ours that we are trying to get over. So, big game, definitely. Obviously, with these guys being out for Tampa, it's not the only guys that are out. They also have Donovan Smith and Josh Wells. Their tackles are both questionable with injuries. Akeem Hicks is also out for a month with a foot injury. He's the guy that Rodgers has had a lot of experience with, a lot of jaw jacking with when he was with the Chicago Bears. They're really banged up. They are definitely banged up front on the offensive line. We all know that. They're banged up at receiver. They still have Leonard Fournette, Kyle Rudolph, Russell Gage, Scotty Miller, Brashad Perriman, and Cameron Brate. Doesn't really sound like a huge, a bunch of crazy weapons. I think the Packers defense can corral them all pretty easily. Fournette's going to have a big day on the ground. And like I said, he only ran for 72 yards against the Saints. They were able to win against the Saints because the Bucs forced 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions against Jameis Winston, and sacked Winston 6 times. 6 times. And the Saints were only able to get to Tom Brady once, which was really the difference in the game. But like I said, Russell Gage, Scotty Miller, Perriman, these are not big weapons. Gage was the third receiver in Atlanta, and Perriman was a guy that was supposed to be good and just kind of fell off a bunch of rosters. So we know it's Tom Brady. We know he's the GOAT. But this is a game the Packers can go in here and squeak out a win. I really think they can do it. It's a bummer that the Buccaneers are injured, and you hate to see anybody not play because of injury. But if we all know the Packers' schedule gets tough, we have some road games. We have at Buffalo, at Washington, at Detroit, 3 in a row. We're going to London, so there's a tough stretch coming up. So if all the games we can win early on, obviously it helps us later on, but it's just it would be a really good win if the Packers can go to Tampa and squeak out a victory. Whether they have injured guys or not, it'd be awesome. Obviously, we don't think Bakhtiari will play, but all in all, the Packers look super healthy. Came out of the Bears game with no injuries. Quay Walker seemed fine after the shoulder injury scare kind of against the Vikings. John Runyan Jr. played the whole game. He was great. He looked fine. Elkin Jenkins, no issues, no setbacks. He looked really good. Allen Lazard did kind of hit his ankle during the game, but he came back in and then scored a touchdown. He looked good. He's a little rusty, but he looked good. Darnell Savage seems fine after that hamstring issue that he had in the offseason. All in all, Packers are super healthy. Tampa Bay not so healthy. The Mike Evans suspension really hurts them. I think with Godwin out and Evans in, Tampa can still beat some teams. They could beat the Packers. With Evans out, but with Godwin in, they could still do some damage, beat the teams, beat the Packers. But with both of them out, there's no reason why the Packers should not win this game. They should be able to lock up Scotty Miller, Russell Gage, and Brashad Perriman with the 3 corners they have and really focus on the run. It's not going to be a lot of big plays, hopefully, for this offense for Tampa. They just don't have the guys to do it. I mean, the Packers are really set up for, with Douglas, Stokes, and Jair, they're really set up for covering Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Julio Jones. But it was Antonio Brown before, but now it's Julio Jones. But they really don't have to now this week because of these injuries and the suspension. But they might have to in the playoffs. So it'll be a good gauge to see where they're at against the guys up front, offensive line, defensive line, and see what the Packers can do on offense against their defense. That's going to be the real tell of the game. What can this Packers offense, this young offense, these young guys on the offensive line, what can they open up for the run game, and what can these young receivers do in the pass game? We saw that Rodgers didn't really throw the ball down the field to Doubs or Christian Watson. I know he just doesn't trust them to make the plays. He tried them both week 1. They both did not run the right routes, so now they just get a lot of screen plays, end arounds, jet sweeps, things of that nature. But in order to beat this Tampa team, you're going to have to push the ball downfield. I know Sammy Watkins, he was the fourth pick in the draft. So, he is a true number 1 if you look at it like that. He just has to step up and be that, stay healthy, all those things. But with Lazard and Watkins and Cobb, and then if you can get these young guys to start making plays for you downfield, you saw Dobbs' shiftiness and bust out that 20-yard screenplay. And then we all know that Watson has crazy speed. So it's just about, putting the pressure on this Tampa defense. Like I said, Akeem Hicks is out for a month with a foot injury, but they still do have Levante David in the middle, Devin White, who is just a straight baller, then Antoine Winfield Jr., Carlton Davis, he was the other corner, Shaq Barrett, obviously, who's the premier pass rusher for this Tampa team. And then they have Vita Vea in the middle, who is a guy that's hard to move. He's like a Kenny Clark basically, but plays for Tampa. Have a lot of pieces on defense. It's going to be tough to move the ball. It's going to be tough with these young guys. If Rodgers doesn't have confidence in these young guys, they're going to really make it tough to run. There's not going to be the same kind of holes there was against the Bears. We're going to see what there is up front, but A.J. Dillon's going to have to really get going, and Aaron Jones is going to have to be the best form of himself. I don't doubt that he will be, but it's going to be tough sledding up front. And this offensive line, hopefully we get Bakhtiari back, but I will say right now that I don't think he's back again for week 3. I think it's going to be a little while still. We don't have a bye till like the end of the season almost, so that's not going to come into play and save us at any point. But hopefully we see Bakhtiari sooner than later. But I think Gash held up all right, and I think Jenkins, after week 1, he can clean up some mistakes, clean up some things. I think he should be ready to go, but he's got Shaq Barrett coming next week on Sunday at 3:25, so he's going to have to be in the best shape he can be in, be ready to rock and roll. It's going to be tough. Tampa, it's going to be loud. We all know how the crowd helped the Packers against the Bears. It was perfect. It was so loud, and you could tell that the Packers defense was really feeding off of that energy and just feeding off of each other playing well, feeding off the energy of the crowd. It was just a really awesome environment, and for them to do so well and play so well and have so much success after a week when they really struggled just shows, where they're really at as a defense. I think they really probably improved their overall ranking in both mostly just the pass game, but they gave up a lot of rushing yards, but overall points scored and passing yards, they really did a good job with 10 points and only 48 yards passing. That's just an insane number nowadays, especially with, the fact that it's a passing league, everything's oriented towards the pass. All the guys that make the most money are the quarterbacks because they pass it, but the Bears decided to run it, and then they lost. So, it is what it is. Big Packers win, and now time to go against Brady. It is Tom Brady week. You always worry when it's Tom Brady week. I mean, literally, obviously every game matters and you care, but like going into Jets week, and I mean, there's guys that you care about. Giants week, there's guys you care about, Saquon and everything. Washington week, but when it's Brady week, it's kind of a big deal. It feels almost like it's like a champion, like a playoff game, just because it's Brady. You know what I mean? So obviously, it'd be awesome to get a big win. A lot of young guys that haven't been in this spot playing against a team like this in a game where it does have playoff implications long term later down in the season. May not seem like it right now, but it will matter when week 15, 16, 17, 18 hit, and these teams are really close in the overall standings, and this matchup will determine who has the seed over the other team. So really important to watch, really important to pay attention to. We will get into a lot more of the Packers-Buccaneers game coming up this week. We have some time before Sunday, but it is exciting. Big win against the Bears, closing that out, 1-1, really a big bounce back win, but like I said, now it's on to the Buccaneers. Really have to focus on making plays against their defense and obviously stopping Tom Brady. Only thing is he's not agile and doesn't move around like Justin Fields does. He gets the ball out really quickly, but he doesn't move around like Fields does. So that, or like, a guy like Trey Lance or whatever, Trey Lance is hurt now, but a lot of guys who are agile and mobile, so that does take an element away that the Packers don't have to worry about, which does really help in other aspects of the defense. But still Tom Brady week, still Tom Brady, still the GOAT, still have to worry about all the GOAT things. And so big week of preparation for the Packers. Everybody seems healthy, knock on wood, and it looks like it's going to be a great matchup. So don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, check out other videos, and I will see you guys later this week. Go Packers, peace out, and thank you for watching.